you have any early betting thoughts, Ken, before you bid us adieu coming up on betting the Masters?
Uh, I mean, I think most of the stuff that has already come out probably echoes how I feel about the tournament, which is that Scheffler is like impossibly good and is rated that way. I think Xander will probably get brought up as a guy who's really interesting because, and this is so it's almost the same as when we were at the Players Championship and how that played out, where it's like, well, you want to be playing at a certain level going into the tournament, and there's only a few players who would play at a high enough level, and like Xander was definitely one of them, and like really not should have won the tournament, but just like Xander did again, kind of, which is like comes in second, comes in top five, but doesn't win it. Could definitely see the same thing here. Although he's had kind of some interesting history at this tournament, and I think the thing I know the least about is probably the same thing everybody knows the least about, which is the live guys, and like what is like how does this will be the first time that Rom comes from that camp and plays in the tournament. Obviously, Koepka did it last year. Rom's obviously had a ton of success here too. So the live guys I have no clue about. I think one of the fun historical trends in this tournament that I just think is interesting. There's a lot of look. I mean, to play this tournament so many times, and there have been so many things that have been true throughout. People like to so what are the people like to bring up the like nobody's won in the first time they played it in a long time. Like Fuzzy Zeller, I think was the last time. Age
1979.
ranges. Yeah, age range is like nobody over 50. There's like people have these like yeah they're fun. I like this stuff, the fun qualifiers and stuff. The one that I really like is and it's crazy. This is definitely less true in other PGA tournaments. So it's something unique to the Masters, or at least unique to like only a few tournaments, and this is one of them. That the player who wins the tournament so frequently ends up on the first page of the leaderboard, even after the first round. That you have like almost no instances historically of a player coming from a long way back, even after Thursday. Like think about it. Like on Friday, somebody makes a charge, be like, nope, too late. Actually, it's like after Thursday, you have to be and this has been a recent trend that's been incredibly powerful, even more than like in the 60s and 70s, where, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I mean, I think over the course of the entire history of the Masters, it's something like three-quarters of the winners were in the top 10 or top 15 after the first round. I mean, that's a lot. And I can tell you, just studying like PGA Tour tournaments and how far back winners come from after Thursday and stuff, I mean, it's all over the place. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots back frequently. And that's not true in the Masters. It's almost certainly going to be someone in those first 10 names only after the first round. And think about how crazy that is. Like, people will play at a certain start time and they'll play at a different time on Friday. Usually that'll give you a better idea of how the field shakes out. And yet it's been so powerful, just the idea of, like, if you don't see that guy's name, like, top 5, 6, 7, 8 places within a couple shots after the first round, like, I would not feel good. And in other PGA tournaments, I'm like hunting guys like that sometimes that are 6 shots back, 7 shots back, that haven't played great. Maybe the AM PM wave Thursday Friday gives you a different setup. Masters, that hasn't been the case. And so look, I mean, you could try to bet before the tournament. Like I think 90, 89 golfers in the tournament, but yeah, if you want to whittle the field down tremendously, and the odds board will reflect it too, to be fair. Man, just look at that leaderboard after Thursday, and your winner is almost certainly on that list. And I don't think you can really say that about almost any other tournament. Do Tiger here just because there's so much interest still. Even we can get into some of the
Hmm.
contending players for the tournament also. The last I saw it, and maybe some other news has come up like during the show we've been on for the last couple hours, but he's arrived at Augusta as far as I'm aware, and kind of intends to play is the reporting that's kind of circulating, but it feels like there's nothing specific yet. Anything you can tell us about that, and maybe just what our expectations should be if we do see Tiger play in this tournament?
Yeah, look, I think at this point it would require there to be a setback for him to not play. He got here yesterday, and he played 9 holes this morning with Will Zalatoris. He looked pretty good actually. But it's 9 holes of a practice round. Tiger looks good when he hits shots. He stands over the ball and he can still hit it. We've seen this numerous times now over the past couple of years. The problem is you have to get to the ball. After you hit a 300-yard drive, you have to walk out there. You have to hit it again. You're standing around. You're walking 5, 6, 7 miles on a golf course, standing all day long, and then you got to do it again and again and again after practice and everything. And this is what's proven difficult for him since he's come back from the car crash. So and the fact that he's played so little this year, I'm not suggesting he hasn't been working towards this and practicing and working on his game, but there's competitive rust, there's nerves, there's sharpness that you need with your short game. It's hard to replicate. So I think the expectations have to be modest. Can he make the cut? That would be a great step. Can he do that? And then kind of see where it is from there. Um, because it's just, it's a physical challenge, and this is a hard golf course to walk. The great thing is Tiger knows it so well. It allows him some freedom off the tee. He's very good on these greens, and like I said earlier, he's still hitting it well. So those things are positives. But the physical part, how's the back? Can he still walk this golf course and get through 72 holes? Those are the questions that we just don't know.
I want to say this before we move on with questions about the Masters. Bob, I love listening to you talk. Like you sound like watching golf, like such a soothing voice, and the stuff is awesome. So this is really enjoyable. Bob Harig is our guest, joining us live from Augusta. Maybe that's gonna be pretty cool to be there this early in the week. Sports Illustrated golf writer, literally wrote the book on Tiger Woods. On Twitter at his name at Bob Harig. Bob, we only have a couple of minutes left here, so maybe time for two more questions. So maybe 60 to 90 seconds for this one. We haven't touched on that many golfers yet over the course of this interview. Some of the guys at the top of the odds board. Give us someone that we haven't yet discussed that you think will be in contention to win this tournament coming up on Sunday. This does not have to be someone I like at a long shot price, not a betting question, just someone you think that we haven't yet talked about that will be there at the end.
Victor Hovland is one that I would go with. Now, not because he's done much this year. Frankly, a lot of the stars haven't done anything this year. Scheffler's the only one. Wyndham Clark, maybe. That's the thing that's been going on in golf, is the guys the name guys have not been up there much. Like Rory won in Dubai earlier in the year, but he hasn't done anything on PGA Tour. Victor Hovland won the Tour Championship last year, won the FedEx Cup. He had a great end of the year. He had a great Ryder Cup for Europe. And all of a sudden, he's kind of gone cold this whole year. He's been searching a little bit. He's been struggling, but he's played really good in the majors over the last couple of years. And he had a pretty good Masters last year. He tied for seventh. He was in the mix with Koepka at the PGA last year. So I just sort of like the fact that he's been there, and I just sort of expect that he's going to find his game.
Where I actually wanted to take this was just because so Strider's going to get hurt, right? And you're gonna say oh well, I got to have some Zach Gallen, and I got to have some Zach Wheeler, and I got to have Glasnow, and I got to or whoever has started even better than other people have started. This is the toughest temptation to resist in awards betting. And it's one that I struggle with sometimes too, is the temptation to want to bet people to win awards really early in the season before you know anything, based off just a very small amount of games. And in other sports, the seasons are so short, it's easier to say I am going to wait a couple games, or I am going to wait 2 or 3 NFL games before betting an award winner, as opposed to doing it right after week 1. I think I know when it's week 1, I gotta make the bet right now. And in baseball, the reason that's tough is one game in the NFL is, that's what, 7-8%? What's 7-8%? I mean, still more games than what they played so far. And one NFL game is worth more than this. And my advice to people is I haven't made a single baseball award bet yet, and I was pretty good last year at this too. I waited a long time on most markets, and it went really well. And I told myself hey, you do that in a lot of other sports where you don't jump in on everything right off the bat. Maybe try that with baseball, but it's the toughest one because it's so long. If I tell people wait till June 1st to bet anything, how long away? It's April 8th. June 1st is a really long time-wise, but it's not a really long time in terms of how much of the season we will have played. And I look back at all my results last year and I go, man, I crushed late, June, July, Ellie De La Cruz gets called up. You play him and Carroll against each other in the price moves that were months away from that dynamic happening again, if it was going to happen again. Gunnar Henderson was one of the most mispriced awards I've ever seen, and it was mispriced for 40 consecutive days in August. That was the best thing going, and it's April 8th. So it's this season especially, I have embargoed myself from I won't even look at I'm not even looking at the odds. I'm not even going to do it. It's just not, however good you think you're in right now, it's just not worth it. And you'll bring up, Otani last year, Acuna last year. These were prices that like went down and they never came back again. Great. Otani was like even money right now, and you get paid on Thanksgiving. How good can it be? Like, yeah, you're gonna that's gonna happen sometimes where you make that bet and Otani goes to the finish line and he wins. Was it worth it? Really? For the other times when you'll do it and the guy ends up with no chance 2 months later? Like it's just what's the risk reward of this, right? And Acuna is probably the best example you could provide of like, well, he was like 5-1, 7-1, and then he was like 2-1. There were times to bet him in the middle of the year. Mookie Betts had a really crazy run at one point, and that became like a two-way market between the two of them. There's always an entry point, and no matter how crazy, awesome you think a bet is, in baseball especially, there's going to be an entry point later. So
Right,
I have
and
a
the
couple
Betts
other
thing was huge right at the end of the season, right? We were talking about that on the show. Like, is Mookie Betts going to surpass Acuna here for NL MVP? To your point that the season's so long that an opportunity will be created at some point.
And just think about you and I when we do NFL. Like, think about when you would have wanted to bet all the winners to maximize the amount you would have won from them and to do it as close to the end of the season as possible. Okay, MVP. You would have bet Lamar right before the Niners game. That was on Christmas. That was the most important award of the year. You would have bet it with like, what was that, 2 games left, 3 games left, 3 games left. And because that was the third to last game and then they played 2 more, right? And then you that was your entry point on Lamar if you took it and he wins and the price collapses and he wins as a result. It's funny, the only award I jammed at the start of the year was Offensive Player of the Year, and I bet Tyreek and McCaffrey, and I got off one and onto the other, and the one I got on got hurt. And like you could have bet McCaffrey plus 4 weeks to go, 5 weeks to go, even small minus when we didn't know when Tyreek Hill was going to come back. These are December discussions, and the season starts on Labor Day weekend. Offensive rookie of the year is probably the only one because Stroud just like never came back again. So maybe that's like the Acuna where like, yeah, it was great to get in, but like, did you even win a lot when that happened? Will Anderson, 2 weeks to go, 3 weeks to go, 4 weeks to go in the season. Huge prices. Coach of the Year Stefanski, we should know, we bet it. Week 15, week 16. Like this was the entry. I was at Christmas, like I was at a Christmas themed dinner with my family, and all these texts start going around between me and Nick and people who vote, and it's like, yeah, it seems like everyone's on Stefanski here, and the price is 10-1. That was Christmas on this stuff. So again, just like it's cool. It's the toughest thing to tell yourself. It's totally okay to wait on all of it. It's totally okay. And like the wins will be there, and then you have the money until then. You can do whatever you want, and it's still going to be okay. And baseball is the only one where I still have trouble with that because the season is so damn long that you think it's a long time. Like May 1st, you're going to want to go back. May 1st is like 3.5 weeks from now, and May 1st you're going to want to be like, well, like I think it's been long, and it hasn't. It hasn't been long enough to like figure out anything that's going. It's just it tantalizes you that you want to bet into these markets. So I have a couple other things that like kind of prove that point, but that just gives you an idea where we're at.